In this video, we will discuss why I returned natural and why I think you should consider it. Over the last decade, I have transitioned slowly from flaxed hair and now natural hair. And in all these phases, I have had thriving, beautiful, healthy hair. So, yes, it's possible to have healthy, relaxed hair. It's possible to have healthy, Texlaxed hair and to have healthy, soft, natural hair. So, what's relaxed hair? How is it different from Texlaxed hair? Texlaxing your hair is simply deliberately under processing your hair. Under processing, meaning you don't wait until it is very bone straight before you rinse it out, or you deliberately weaken the relaxer so that it's not as effective in straightening your hair as it could be. That's the difference. Having textured hair is simply someone who has decided to embrace more of their texture for whatever reason they have, either because they want to get more accustomed to their own natural texture or they want their hair to be in a healthier state. Once again, relaxed hair can be healthy. However, relaxed hair is always not as healthy as the same head of hair if it were not relaxed. And when I say not healthy, Tresscare, we define healthy hair as hair that is soft and strong at the same time. That is the same thing as hair that is resilient to breakage to a certain extent. So natural hair, textured hair, relaxed hair, those are all gradients of the states with which our hair, the states that our hair can be, and the different levels of resilience that it can sustain. So basically, my point is if your hair is natural, it's at its most resilient state in terms of the integrity of each strand. Each strand is at its strongest state that it could be. If you lax it, it's in a more weakened state, meaning whatever tension your natural hair could have sustained without breaking off, your Texlax hair cannot. And the more you go down that gradient, the more fragile and more delicate your hair gets. So if you have natural hair, if you have relaxed hair, if you have Texlax hair, you have to be more on your protein game. You have to be more delicate with your hair because your hair is way more fragile than it would be if it were natural. So for me personally, when I got confronted with the idea of returning natural, I remember back in the day, around a decade ago, I would say I do not like the kinky texture. I prefer bouncy curls. That's actually something that I'm currently very embarrassed to admit, but I share because I feel like there are a lot of people that can relate with exactly what I'm saying. I personally didn't like the kinky texture, and I claimed boldly that I preferred bouncy, big, voluminous, bouncy curls. And eventually, I evolved to a point where I began to appreciate the kinky texture. However, just not on me. I would like it for you. I say it's beautiful on you, but I wouldn't want it for myself. I know many of you can relate with this. And then I got to a point where I was able to personally make my hair, that is, do twists or braids in kinky extensions, using kinky extensions. And I would ask myself, okay, so this is, the kinky texture on me. Do I like it? I think I like it, but just not my own hair. Now we're getting closer to the problem. So, more recently, I went on a journey where I just thought to myself to explore what it would look like if I actually evolved to the point where I genuinely looked at my own hair texture and considered it beautiful. There's a content creator, her name is Yasuda, and she's the OG of romanticizing natural hair. So she said something that has always stuck with me, and I will continue to say it to women all over the world again and again. And it goes like this: if you want to like something, you can. And this makes so much sense. This resonated with me because I was already coming to the realization that a lot of us have preferences that were learned. A lot of us, our preferences, especially when it comes to our hair, were actually learned. We were not actually born with the things we think we prefer today. We learned to prefer them. We learned to like them. We were told it was beautiful. And that's beautiful news. That's good news. Why? Because if you learn something, guess what? You can unlearn it. It also means you can learn something else that can override what you originally if you want to. So what happened to me personally was I began to truly notice that when I see kinky Afro textured hair that is well taken care of and is thriving, I genuinely am in awe of it, right? Now, the point here is not to prefer one texture over the other. The point is to be able to fall in love with the texture that you have per time because textures change. But that's another story for another day. I want to love my kinky texture. However, I don't want to do it in such a way that if I were to wake up tomorrow morning with straight hair, I would, I mean, I probably would freak out because I'll be wondering what's wrong with me medically. But let's say everything is fine and eventually I end up with straight hair naturally. I want to be able to love that too. Why? Just because it's mine, right? So I began to notice how I reacted to textured hair that looked beautiful. And I reacted so I'm so amazed when I see beautiful textured hair. It is gorgeous to me, drop dead gorgeous. And it's actually something I deliberately cultivated over time. Like I said, it was a deliberate journey that I thought to explore what it would look like if I were to love my own texture. So one day I was looking at a picture of myself, of my hair, and I was just admiring my texture. I said, oh, wow, look at that texture, right? Look at that length, look at the texture. And then in that moment, it hit me that if I were to return natural, I would have more volume and I would have a lot more texture and I would potentially have more length than what I was looking at and the length, texture, and the volume I was seeing in this photo. And in that moment, I just could not understand how I just could not understand justifying continuing to use relaxers. Unlike most people stop using relaxers because maybe their relaxer was breaking or they were having scalp issues with the relaxers or for health reasons, for genuinely justified health reasons. You know, the more about research, medical research as to the side effects long term of having relaxers in your hair and on your scalp. All valid reasons, right? However, none of those were my own reasons. My own reasons were I simply fell in love with my own texture and I wanted it as soon as possible. And so I felt a sense of urgency. However, I decided not to cut my hair. Why? Because I had just texlaxed my hair, right? I just had a fresh touch up. So I thought to myself to wait for my hair to grow out long enough to be able to make cornrows with it, to be able to put it in cornrows. And the reason for this, you don't have to do this. There's so many other ways you can transition to natural hair, or you don't even have to transition. You could just scrape it all off, right? However, my reason was specifically for me, this was a proper big deal. Okay. This was a big deal for me. I have never cut my hair before, ever. I've never carried short hair the way you see on here. I've never done it before. Secondly, I have never seen what my own natural hair looks like. Many people, some of you actually remember when you started using relaxers. Some of you actually remember when you had your hair out and about in its natural state. I don't. I have no idea. I had no idea what it looked like, what it felt like, what it was like to have my own natural hair. So because this was a big jump for me, I decided to pace myself, let it grow out a few inches, and then I would cut it so that just in case I'm struggling, with styling choices and whatever the case, then I still have my good old cornrows that I can go to. I love making cornrows. I make cornrows a lot. And so that was just a very, very safe, option for me. And that's what I did. So the current style that I have on right now is actually my first style that I've ever made with my natural hair before. The style isn't perfect to me, but I absolutely love it because I'm proud of myself for pulling this off the first time. And this is an old wash and go. Something I must say, that's a major difference between my natural hair and my Texlax hair is how moldable my hair is. I literally can shape and edit the shape of my hair. And I love that. So that's my reason. That's my reason for returning natural. And I think it's one reason that I haven't really heard being spoken about before. I think the closest I've heard is when people say, oh, they're curious to know what their curls are like, you know, but that's not quite it for me. It wasn't just curiosity. It was genuinely because I already fell in love with the texture and I wanted it now, right? I had to be patient to grow it out first. So if you are the reason why it's important for you to love natural hair, and this has nothing to do with whether or not you are relaxed or text-laxed. By the way, most people deal with this. It's important to love your own natural hair because it is your own natural hair. If you choose to carry your hair in other colors, other styles, and other textures, that's not the problem. The problem is that you are uncomfortable carrying your own texture. Does that make sense? So the issue is not that you are back to back on wigs. The issue is that you are uncomfortable carrying your own hair out. There's fundamentally something off about that. And I'm inviting you to truly investigate where your preferences came from, why you prefer it. This could be a very long journey for you, or it could be a short one. It doesn't matter. The point is, I would love and I am inviting you to truly pause to consider what it would look like for you to genuinely love what you see on your head, whether or not it meets with any random beauty standard out there on the internet or in the world or in the media, what that would look like for you. And in repeating what Yas Sudani has said, if you want to like something, you can. You absolutely can. So if you can relate to any part of my story so far, let me know. You can drop a comment below in the comment section, or you can send me a DM on Instagram, Tresscare handle. And at this point, as I'm inviting you to reconsider these things, I'm also inviting you to join our community. It's free. Watch other ladies on their journey and join our hot seat coaching, which happens on Saturdays. Also, inviting you to join the Brush Up Link Challenge if you want to sit down with me one on one for 5 good days where we fix, we edit, we audit your complete entire hair care system and figure out if you are on track for your own growth, if you're on track for your own goals, and figure out if you're on track on your own goals or any other goal that you have. We would also work together to make sure that we review everything so that you truly are on track and you leave the challenge with certainty on exactly what to do. I'll see you in the next one.